Sure.
Hi! Welcome to episode 4 of Undisputed. Joining me here is RaizQT, and we are going to talk about a couple of topics that you can see on the screen. Raiz, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, thanks very much. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, so how have you been enjoying the league and everything so far?
Incursion's been pretty cool. It's pretty lengthy because I think there's two camps of people. Some people really love it and think it's the best league forever and all this stuff.
Mm.
Well, I guess it's 3 camps because there's also the people who don't like it, and there's also the people who have played it enough to grow not to like it. So
Yeah.
I think I'm in the I've played it enough to appreciate it, but now it's kind of getting a little bit that
Yeah.
sort of camp.
Well, we can go in depth about Incursion later as well, but I want to talk a little bit about what have you been doing this week. So you started out on SSF, and do you want to talk a little bit about everything you've done, all the builds you've played and stuff like that? Oh. Hmm. What happened? Rise is off. Oh, my Discord shut down. My Discord's dead. 39 servers are unavailable due to a temporary outage. Really, Discord? I don't even do these this often. Oh my god. Really? I've never seen a Discord crash in months. Really? Right, Rise, should we just Skype? Oh my god. Oh, it's back. I think it's back.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, okay. This motherfucker left the call.
I was like, fuck this podcast. I can't see you anymore though. Actually, there we go.
Oh, it's loading up, but it's kicking me in and out, and it seems to be kicking you in and out. So.
Well, we'll try it. YouTube's gonna love this professional podcast.
Oh, you're keeping it in? Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
That's the quality stuff that I expect.
yeah. I mean, it's not that bad. It's the
Yeah.
raw and unfiltered that YouTube loves. I mean, yeah, we'll see.
This likes it raw. I get it.
Exactly,
Nice.
exactly. So you froze in a really great position as well. But do you want to talk a little bit about what you did this league, what builds you played, and you started with SSF stuff like that?
Ooh, I mean, that's like a topic for an entire podcast, but I mean, TLDR, I didn't quite know what to play. I rolled some sort of Ignite something initially.
Mhm.
I was planning to chase for 100, but we didn't really know what the meta is going to be, so you had the decision of do I play KB or Sunder for SSF,
Yep.
racing to 100, or do I choose something funky and go with a risky build, maybe a little bit more dependent on gear drops and whatnot. I went into the funky camp, which ended up being a little bit weird because eventually I was planning to be RF with Impulsa on an
Yeah.
Elementalist and just blow everything up. Kind of how people play Pathfinders now for Magic Find and whatnot.
Hmm.
But until I got there, I played Flame Blast Totems, Firestorm Totems, Incinerate, and something. I switched 10 different builds, and then eventually I got to 98.5, I think.
Yeah.
At which point I was like, yo, fuck this RF stuff. Because I was almost dead constantly, and then I switched to Blade Vortex, and yeah, hit 100.
So you have to try out a lot of different builds on the 100 race, which people usually
Yeah,
don't.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
do you feel like there's a little extra pressure of playing something not cookie cutter as a streamer, that you don't want to necessarily just go well, I already know this is the best?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, for the longest time, that was my approach. That's why I always played very, maybe not unpopular, but definitely choice. Like I would always play a build that wasn't necessarily tier 1 because I tried to keep it interesting for
Yeah.
people. But then eventually I got to a point where I was like, well, I'm getting my ass kicked every time if I do this. Why don't I play a good build instead? And now I just play good builds and it seems to be going better
Yeah.
instead. So,
You did really well this race as well. Like you were pushing pretty hard, and it was pretty impressive to see.
it was interesting. It was different, because it was so short for the first time ever. I'm used
Yeah.
to the whole, you take 2-3 weeks and you're absolutely exhausted by the end, and then you take a month to recover and everything. But it seemed like this race was so super duper competitive, fortunately with like 99% of the competition dying, that
Hmm.
it just, I don't know, just went by really quick, and I didn't feel too much downtime either. So that was very cool.
And like, how do you feel about like the SSF race versus the trade race? Like, do you feel like there's, or like, how much more RNG would you say is involved? Like, for example, I know you didn't get a Stormfire for very long.
I didn't get a Stormfire ever. I
Oh
still didn't get a Stormfire.
yeah, exactly.
um Yeah, because that was the big thing to anybody that doesn't know. I guess I forgot to mention that my build was very dependent on a Stormfire ring, and I just never got it.
Yeah,
So that's why I switched so late, why I felt like it was necessary to continue the race. But I don't know. It depends really what sort of pick you take, right? Depends what you're really going with, because certain builds will be just really powerful from the get-go, or certain certain scenarios you have a really good transition. Like for
yeah,
instance, if you play Deadeye Sunder, then you can always transition into KB if you get the items for it. But even if you don't get that, as long as you've got like a Hemophilia glove, you're still probably going to be getting to 100 pretty fast.
yeah.
So is there like as much? You don't necessarily have to have a lot of RNG in your race to 100. Obviously, there's always going to be big things like if somebody finds a headhunter and
Yeah.
whatnot. But I really haven't seen that ever, other than Uber one time finding a
Yeah,
headhunter
that's
on
pretty
an
funny.
RF build. Yeah, but he still didn't win, so uh, I don't know. I don't feel like there's that much RNG. And I mean, you could tell the same thing for Trade League, where if somebody has a headhunter and the other team doesn't have a headhunter, like that's a default win. Like there's no, because you can just
Yeah,
build entirely around it. I don't feel like there's anything really another team can do if you have been like at a similar level up until that point.
I would argue that there is more RNG, like quite a lot more in SSF because, for example, say you like get a 30 fusing 6 link, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I never end up getting one in the SSF. Like there's nothing like I can do about that. Whereas in Trade
No, I
League,
see.
if both like just say we're both playing alone in Trade League,
Mm-hmm.
like there would be like very little differences on like what we would be doing and finding because you have like so many options with trading.
No, I absolutely see that argument. It's just that so far in the races to 100, I've just never seen it actually happen. There's always situations in which you feel like on paper that's how it should be, like an early 6 link would just give you that much more of an advantage. And it carries further, even further than people might think, because it's like, well, 5 link or 6 link, is it really that big of a deal? It's kind of a big deal, but the biggest part of it is that you no longer have to pick up 6 sockets,
Yeah.
which is really substantial. Like
Mm.
that's actually a massive clear speed increase.
Yeah, it's
But
really cool.
realistically, I really haven't seen a situation where somebody won and I went, wow, he only won because he had really good RNG. So
Yeah.
I'm sure eventually it's going to happen, but so far, yeah. And I mean, especially this last race, Steel raced all the way to 100 and he got first with a 5 link
Yeah,
over me who had a 6 link. So, there's also obviously skill involved and whatnot.
for sure.
It's
I would
definitely sure.
I would say with Impulsa though, a 5 link also doesn't matter as much because you have your Impulsa doing such a large amount of damage as well. I'd say like
Mm,
on other builds, I'd say 6 link matters a lot more than on Blade Vortex.
Sure. I mean, well, I can give the example that I had, for instance, right? Despite the fact that I felt forced to change my build to at least get second, even though it was looking really grim,
Mm.
a big part of the reason why it wasn't nearly as good and why I knew that no matter what, I won't have an opportunity to catch up to Steel, even if suddenly I started playing better than him, which obviously probably wouldn't have happened too, was simply because I didn't have single target, right? I
Right.
did have a 6 link, but I had way less single target because I spent so much currency previously to change and everything that I just could not get a single target weapon swap. So that 6-link in my case was really big because I just could not kill really bosses
Yeah.
almost at all, even considering the 6-link. So
So
it played a really big role for me in this race for
yeah.
sure.
And did that make you have a hard time like sustaining maps, or was the temple able to carry you like with the map drops from the temple?
Yeah, but it's a double-edged axe, right? Is that how you say it? Because on one side, yeah, it's great. I mean, Temple drops a lot of maps, and for SSF, it's super useful. But then on the other side, you're still running Temple,
Yeah.
which isn't great at all by any standards in terms of gaining as much XP as you possibly can. Uh, is it a double-edged sword? I thought it was a
It
double-edged
is
axe.
double-edged sword. It's definitely
Who
sword.
uses a double-edged sword? That makes no sense.
Oh, that's definitely the
Uh,
saying.
I don't know. Something's up here.
But yeah, no, like I feel like the map drops were too good, like not to. Like it was just
Yeah,
I
no,
never had to worry about map drops because of it.
for sure. No, it was absolutely. I think everybody was running it all the way through. I remember I asked Steel at some point because simply bounced off so much, and I was like, "Yo, what the hell is he doing? Right? Is he just like constantly running these super duper high maps?" I mean, that was part of it. He kept on doing it, but
Yeah,
at the same time, he did find an inspired learning too. So I was
yeah,
like, "Oh, okay."
that's pretty good.
It's not a matter of maps necessarily.
Yeah, and he is like very fast as well.
Yeah,
Were you
obviously.
surprised to see so many more people? Like obviously, I jumped over to SSF and a couple others as well. Were you surprised to see a lot of trade people coming over?
Surprised? Not necessarily. I always thought that it really is going to be just a matter of time as the competition on Trade League died down more and more. I think people, people like you and Havoc and whatnot, you guys are always looking for a competition, right? And it was
Mhm.
pretty much the same thing for everybody else. So I thought that it was an eventuality, especially having played Trade League now for, well, I almost switched immediately. Like I didn't transition all my stuff, but I pretty much just started fresh on Trade League almost immediately after the race. I think I played like 1.5 builds or something.
Yeah,
And seeing it, I mean, Trade League's been pretty rough for hardcore. Like people really aren't trading much and all this stuff. So I think a race to 100 would have been almost an SSF race in this league. But I obviously don't know how it looked like from the very beginning. But I don't see that many people playing anymore.
yeah.
It did seem like most people moved on, even the ones who didn't participate in the competition.
I think my favorite thing about it is that there's just so many more teams. Like if you are playing Trade League, even
Yeah.
if all of us were playing Trade League, there would be like, 5, 6 teams max.
Mm-hmm.
And then like as soon as people start dying, you just have like the
Five,
entire.
six, maybe
Yeah.
5, 6 people, 2 teams.
No, I meant like if everybody on that were competing on Trade League was on, or I mean that everyone that was competing on Selfan was playing on Trade League and made their own teams and stuff.
Oh, right. No, absolutely. If that was the case, then yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's been, even before Trade League, that's been kind of the case that it was
Mhm.
typically like 3, maybe 4 teams at most, if like people had time and whatnot. But now that people spread it, you've got the Venturas,
Yeah.
Sparogs, all of these people bouncing over. And yeah, it was really cool.
Well, the other problem with the teams as well is normally like as soon as one person or two people have died, then it's the entire team is down a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
the time. Whereas in SSF, just one team per person, so we have so much like more people playing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I thought that was cool. It was also cool how like everybody died in SSF.
Yeah, I died a lot this league.
It was, I don't know. I don't know how I
Incursions,
got
dude.
through. Yeah,
Oof.
it was scary for sure. I
Yeah.
tried to like stay back away from the incursions, but at the same time, you just can't skip them like
I
at
know
all,
they're too
especially
good.
in this race. It's like not just drops, but also just XP wise. I mean, I felt like whenever I was in an incursion, it was just an increase, or at least even with like the map, depending on what I was running at the time. So
I feel like especially for SSF, the really big deal is like, or even early on, you would see them like drop so many uniques, and I was like, wow,
yeah.
especially on SSF, I really want to do this because
Oh
it's
yeah.
like such a big chance and
That
like
was that
lots of
was one of the
currency.
most frustrating things because like I had this idea of how like incursions and temple are going to be in my head because I didn't really do anything outside of like watching the Ziggy D videos. So I had like a certain idea, and as I'm leveling, my assumption was that okay, I'll be skipping incursions for the most part, and then probably get like start running them in like aqueducts and
Yeah.
maybe in maps, like that's definitely going to be helping out. And as I'm leveling, all these people keep linking me these freaking insane items from the temple.
I
Level
know.
8 wand with like 80 spell damage. You're just like, holy shit,
Yeah.
should I be doing this? But then I think I
Yep.
ran like one temple leveling up and it dropped a staff. Then I ran another, it also dropped the staff, and I was just like, yeah, okay, screw this forever.
Yeah, all the
I'm not doing
staffs.
this.
I wish they didn't drop staffs. But there's been so many cool ones, especially oh, imagine getting the sacrificial heart like 2 hours into the race. Like oh, so
That's
good.
gonna that would keep you up for a while for sure.
It's like an extra link, especially early. It's insane. Like there's so many of the
Yeah.
items that are really cool. I bought a I switched back to Trade League 2 days ago and I bought a like no requirement driftwood scepter with 80% fire damage and like high flat, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. No, that stuff's absolutely pretty crazy.
I
And I
think
mean it's cool too.
yeah, I think it's really cool because especially in the past, like in trying to think, both in Essence and Talisman, they introduced low level leveling items like the flame boots and
Mm.
the fire talisman, which they later put a really high level requirement on. But now they seem to have kept like the low level stuff, which is nice. I love having it.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. I mean, I think in this case the low level stuff doesn't really break the gameplay as much because most leveling builds are like mostly depend like the speed of them is dependent mostly on mobility rather than the damage, especially with so many good vol abilities now.
Yeah,
So it's cool that they kept them, I think. And it makes the gameplay a lot more exciting too. Like being able to level a caster and then even if you're not an RF build, using Vol RF to like boost up your spell damage or using an impurity for something like that. And then you've got like the inherent
inherent.
the vulnerability of the skill that you're using. It's pretty cool.
Did you manage to like? Did you test out any new vulnerabilities while leveling, like in the race?
I mean, I pretty much stuck with Flame Blast for the longest time because well, Flame Blast was the coolest thing on the planet,
Yep.
but it also just ruined me. Like Flame Blast, if you really want to go fast, it's a very cool skill to just play around with for a little bit. But if you want to like race with Flame Blast and you're planning to play it for 20 hours, don't. Like,
Yeah.
it it murdered me. I had like RSI. It felt like RSI just the first day. It was crazy. But the ability itself, really cool. And
Yeah,
yeah, it was
especially for
just really
leveling.
nice to lead bosses too. That was
Yeah.
sick.
That was what happened to me as well. I found like I think it was just a side area or a box, but Wild Flame Dust was one of the first ones I found. I was actually using Arc at the time,
Yeah.
but I switched over to it and I was like, oh wow, this is like just murdering everything. So that was super fun to play around with,
Oh yeah, for sure.
especially
Just having
compared to
like
the
a
old one.
screen-wide AoE,
Yeah,
just just there available that you can click anywhere on the screen and everything's gonna die in the proximity.
yeah.
So cool.
I was very surprised that like Arc was so like buggy basically. With
Mm.
it's basically gotten buffed twice now with the that it can continue targeting things around corners, and now we found out yesterday that Val Arc hadn't been working.
How so?
Oh, Val
It
Arc, the,
wouldn't.
the lucky buff didn't do anything.
Wait, really?
Yeah, just got buffed yesterday. Didn't do anything until yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, good. That's what you get, Arc cucks.
So yeah, it was pretty
Is
interesting.
that real? That's insane, man.
Yeah,
How can something like that be brought up over a month after release? That's so insane. And how did nobody like even say anything?
I have
Like,
no
oh,
idea. Like, well, it felt like it worked. It was probably just a placebo effect.
yeah, probably.
Um. So yeah, no, that was interesting, and everyone's always like really worried about Arc being nerfed mid-league. Obviously, they don't generally do that.
Yeah, no, not anymore. Anyway, they used to, but people aren't particularly happy with it, so they kind of stopped.
Yeah. And you swapped back to Trade League fairly early, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm gonna
I
start
thought
doing that.
I thought I'm gonna play. Typically, basically, I play up until 100 or whenever the race is done, unless I'm like close to 100, then I'll continue. Like this time, I was second
Mm.
or well, second or third, so I was like, okay, let's just pull all the way through to the end. and then I'll play maybe like 2, 3 characters in SSF because I just really enjoy that with the items that I found. But this time around, I just didn't find anything. Like I finished the race and I was like, well, I have no tier 1 uniques, no like really anything to build around, so no good rare items because I stopped picking up rare items super early. I don't have fusings, just nothing. It was just a constant
Pretty
back and forth with
frustrating.
my filter because people were pushing so much that it was just a constant back and forth between like, oh, maybe it's okay to be third, but then like I wake up the next day, I'm like, no, it's not okay. Delete the six sockets from my filter and then push to for second again. So yeah, I just when the race ended, I literally had like 0 Chaos Orb, 2 Alchemies, 0 Scours, like 14 Chance Orbs. There's a screenshot of it. It's like the funniest thing ever.
But you had a sexing impulsa though.
Yeah, I did. I have 2 even.
Nice.
I got the Impulsa super early. I chanced it. I think at like 83. I didn't get to use it until 93, I think. And then pretty sure I managed to 6-link it at like 97 and a half. At which point I was like, oh, I have another Impulsa. Let's 6-link that too. And then it just 6-linked immediately. I was like, oh, okay.
Were you gonna vol them then, or?
I was scared of running minus max.
Right, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. It was pretty scary.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to evolve things and it's just not going that great so far.
So like just all of Incursion, how are you liking it so far? Like the incursions themselves like have crazy loot. Like, I'm very, very surprised.
Yeah. I really like it for solo play. I think it has some issues for group play. From what I've seen, people drop like 10, 15 unique items per incursion. That's pretty nutty. But I mean, MFing in general is in a weird spot right now.
Yeah. No, I was very surprised. I think I saw I can't remember who it was, but somebody linked me a clip and yeah, like you said, there was like 15 uniques and it was like bling 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 bling.
Yeah.
I think it's like designed pretty well. I don't really mind waiting for the loot. Like normally I would be kind of like, okay, why is this like dropping like pennies, over 100 seconds? But like I think it's a fairly nice balance and it's sort of exciting every time I open the incursion. I'm like, oh, am I getting anything cool? So I think that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it really depends on the speed that you're going at. When I was going for 100, I was like, this shit is disgusting. Like it takes forever to drop. I hate everything about it. But then as soon as I stop racing, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
it takes a while, but it feels pretty good and it drops enough to justify sticking around. And then on top of it, the biggest thing is, hey, it's not 100 pennies like every other, because you brought up the 100 pennies. I'm like, well, it's not like splinters. It's not like coins. It actually feels good because you're picking up loot and not like 1/10 of a chaos orb that you have to pick up. So they did good.
Yeah, I was very surprised with. I feel like they don't drop that many div cards. I mean, I did see a video of someone dropping 2 doctors in one, but whenever I was farming a zone with multiple div cards or like div cards I wanted, I felt like I didn't really get them out of the incursions ever. But I got so many uniques and so many drops. I was like, huh. I don't know. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. For me, I remember when the race was on, and I felt really good about my league start. I was switching builds and everything, and still popping off. I was feeling good, right? But then I got to Blood Aqueduct, and it was a nightmare. Like it took me 5.5 hours to get a Tabula, and I remember Noogie got it in like 40 minutes or something. And he apparently dropped all of his cards from incursions, or like the vast majority of it. So he was like, yeah, just do incursions was the big deal. So I'm like running every incursion and nothing ever drops. I'm constantly considering leaving because I think I had 7 cards like an hour and a half in, and then no card dropped for like 4 fucking hours straight. So constantly I'm just like, okay, I gotta leave. No, but it's a 6-link. I gotta stay for it. And then eventually I think I dropped my last 2 cards, both dropped from a single incursion. So
oh wow.
Yeah,
I think I had the same problem too. It took me like 3 or 4 hours for my Tabula, and I didn't get any from the incursions. And as you said, Noogie was like, "Oh, just do incursions." I was running around clicking boxes and being like, "Where is this shit?" And just nothing was dropping.
I didn't drop a single one, and then 2.
Yep. I actually stopped doing incursions. At some point, I was like, no, fuck this. I'm just gonna go. I'm just going fast. So yeah, fuck that. And I feel like both okay, maybe not bestiary in the start, but especially bestiary after like drop rate changes got changed. And Abyss and Breach, they all had like really high div card drop rates. So it was like boom, like less than a 2 hour tabula, easy on the start. Like I remember,
Yeah.
I think in Breach I had it in 40 minutes or something. And
Woo!
now it was like, are you fucking kidding me? It was so bad.
Yeah, it felt really bad. A lot of people were complaining, and there's always that. Did they hotfix this? Like they must have changed this, but then you never really know because GGG doesn't release that sort of info. But
Yeah.
then certain things definitely felt like they were like the drop rates were changed. But that's the nasty part. I really think that's a big complaint of mine that sometimes they change the rarity of an item or the rarity of a drop that people are building around, and they're
Mhm.
just like, oh, this is fine not to tell people.
Do you
It's like, dude.
remember when they changed Gold Rim and stuff?
Dude, I remember when they changed Baron, and I was playing a
Oh
summoner, and I'm
yeah.
just like, ha ha, guess the race is over.
That's pretty fucked.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
nasty.
I've never had it affect a race thing, but there was one patch where gold rims and stuff were like 1x or 46. They were so rare. I think it hotfixed mid league because people were complaining so much. But like all the leveling items were like tier 1 rarity, and we're like, why?
Yeah, that didn't seem right for sure.
But yeah,
I mean,
no,
don't get me wrong, like I'm cool with it as long as they talk about it. Like one of the
yeah.
big things was like I had this like whole thing posted on Reddit about how I was upset about the fact that they're not releasing patch notes, and that was like a really interesting conversation because I was basically upset that they don't release the patch notes earlier, but then not people were, Reddit was being really mean. They were bullying me. But then like the number one comment on there was, "Oh, Rise, what if they want to tweak last minute things, right? And make adjustments." And they gave an example. I can't remember what it was anymore, but they gave an example where basically players told GGG, "Hey, change this because it's gonna be fucked when you release it," and they did. So the number one comment was like proof of the fact that if you give it to players earlier, then they can make adjustments based off of community feedback and release something better, right? And it was like, oh,
Yeah,
just a
that's true.
big shit show.
That was the power charges and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, I think it was.
I think
Um,
so. Power and frenzy charges. I was excited for the new power charges.
I thought it was fair too. I remember people really freaking out about that. I think it was something else, but I really can't remember what it was. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's always a. What's your stance on that?
Well, I mean,
The
I want
patch.
them. Something that really frustrated me this day, where they were like, "Oh, we're so prepared. It's so done ahead of time. It's so amazing." And then I'm
Mhm.
like, "Sweet, we're gonna get early patch notes." And then it was like
Yeah,
2 days before, and I was like, "Where's my fucking patch notes? Are you fucking
that's
kidding me?" I was like,
that was my argument exactly, and people freaked the fuck out because we had a Bay class before where Chris was on, and we were like, "Hey, early patch notes," and Chris was like, "Well, there's still a lot of preparation and stuff, and they don't want to do last minute changes if they release the patch notes." But then they released the patch notes, and there was like a full page of like updated patch notes after that. Like, what do you mean you're changing shit anyway? Like, why not just release it
"Yeah,
earlier?
it's a
Yeah,
little
people get
frustrating."
really upset. Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I've been very happy with the league. I thought, aside from like the entire server crashing and them doing a literal rollback, aside from that, it was a fairly stable launch.
Yeah, because you were one of the people that got in.
No, I
I was
didn't.
what? I didn't get it.
I didn't get in either.
Oh, okay, you get kicked too?
Yeah.
I remember watching Ventura play, and he's like killing Hellrake, and I'm like losing my goddamn mind here because I want to race. He's
Yeah.
killing Hellrake, and then he logged out, and he couldn't log back in. I'm like, yeah, that's what you get. You're
Yeah.
fucked. That was great.
Aside from that, it was pretty good. I feel like most of the launches, except Parandis was like really awful. Other than that, it was like really good.
Yeah, Perandis was awful for a really long time.
Yeah.
I remember we were racing, and we were like a group of 6 people in the plateau or something,
Yeah.
and then all of our games crashed. Every single person crashed, and we came back in, and I was dead, and I was the only one dead from the group, and I was like, oh, there goes my race. I think I was like rank 1 at like 93 or something. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
cool. The whole group was together. Everybody crashed, and I'm the only one dead. Like, I didn't even see mobs or anything. Ugh.
that's so many deaths to fucking disconnect in that league. But I feel like they've improved
Yeah.
so much. I feel like every league now is like fairly stable. There's like maybe one or two crashes, but like very little at the league starts, and obviously it's a big load on the servers.
Well, this league did have a lot of people crashed this league, like a surprising amount. Didn't you
Alright.
crash like 70 times a day or something?
No, that was last league, I think, where there was a bug with Guardian because I was low life righteous fire, and there was a bug with the Guardian where some of the auras would cause you to crash. So I had a disconnect counter on my screen. There was one day I had 114 disconnects, and I was like about to lose my fucking mind. But that was just some bug with Guardian. It was the only Guardian getting it.
I know that, yeah, as Anya was mentioning in the chat, there was a leap slam bug. I know that when they implemented the Nemesis guys, and the leap slam bug they fixed really late, like 4 weeks into the league or something, where people would just leap and then they would disconnect. And for me, it was if I saw the lightning mob, the lightning Nemesis mob, whenever I killed it,
Yeah.
my game would just crash
Oh.
every single time. But then you've got the explosions, the mirage lightning explosions on you, so it's like, oh, that's a pretty scary thing to crash on.
I think I actually did crash quite a lot this thing. I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
I'm
remember
trying
now.
to. I
I
remember.
think I think I haven't lately, so I'm just like misremembering. But I think I actually did
Yeah,
remember bitching about it a lot in the start now.
I remember that I didn't crash that much other than the Nemesis mods, and I think I asked you on stream, or we were like talking or something. You were streaming, and I was in your chat, and you were like, "Dude, I've been crashing so much." And then I looked at the
Yeah,
counter; it was like 90 something. Or I'm pretty
yeah.
sure that was this league.
Well, no, like I remember the counter was last league. That was the low life righteous fire. But I think I did crash a lot this league too. I'm just remembering it now. Um, and I think like I did talk a little bit to TTT about multi-thread crashing and stuff. And from like what I talked to them, I think they think it's fixed because people aren't reporting things. It's pretty hard to report bugs in Path of Exile. I don't know. Do you have multi-threading on?
I'm pretty sure I do, but I really never have issues.
All right.
I recently switched computers too, and I never really had issues before and not after. Unless there's something like literally broken, but
Let's crash with it on. Sucks
like
because it
Leap
like
Slam
doubles
or
my
the Nemesis
FPS.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really very rarely have issues, so I don't even get to report that many problems.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair.
Pretty lucky.
But yeah, like what other builds have you been playing this thing now that you're back on Trade League and Incursion?
Well, I've been mostly trying to get Ignite to work again, so I'm kind of revisiting a lot of the old Ignite stuff, like Explosive Arrow
Yeah.
and basically anything that you can think of where Impulsa is like amazing and it's Elementalist. I've been playing that. I think I rolled like 5 Elementalists in a row,
Nice.
and yeah. I
You
played Incinerate.
yeah.
I know not a lot of people are experimenting with that, and the people that didn't scale cast speed, and they thought it was awful. But Anu and Zultra, who are mods in my chat, they've experimented with it quite a bit, and they gave me some really good tips and feedback. And initially, I rolled a Trickster for Incinerate because I wanted the cast speed and the attack speed. But it turned out I didn't need that, so instead I literally just copy pasted their build for Incinerate, and it's pretty freaking cool. You can play.
Nice.
I play it personally as an Ignite build because you kind of have to. It does have some issues, but it's a pretty cool ability, honestly. I think they did a great job. They should just give it a threshold jewel.
You feel a little bit like Elementalist just always gets carried by Heralds though?
I think an Elementalist gets carried by Impulsa. I think Impulsa is such a stupid item.
Yeah.
I hate it.
But that's what I mean. Like, yeah, obviously Impulse is strong too, but I feel like I feel like I'm always playing the same build with a different
Mhm.
trigger. It's like Impulses and Heralds. That's all my Elementalists have been this league.
Yeah. No,
So,
absolutely. I think Elementalist in general is in a good spot, but unfortunately, it just synergizes so freaking well with Impulsa, and Impulsa is just an item that even if you were to take away the explosions, it's still a great chess piece, and then the explosions work on anything. Like you don't scale your explosions at all on something like a what's that? Inquisitor, for instance, because your crit, you don't have LE overload, you don't really scale any elemental damage other than like the base passives and whatnot, and it's still absolutely your best chess piece for like the majority of the builds out there.
yeah,
So
it's a lot of fun. I've actually been, I was trying to play around with Ignite as well. and I didn't want to just do Elementalist, so I was like, you know what, Trickster gets a lot of damage for time. Either like Trickster, Scion, or Chieftain. A couple of people in chat were suggesting Chieftain. And
Right.
then I've always wanted to do Abrath's Hooves, but like only Abrath's Hooves, where it's not like you're relying on Heralds or Impulsa. I just want to see like, how far could I take just Abrath's Hooves? It's not that far, actually.
I was waiting for the punchline. I'm not gonna lie.
It's just like they just don't have like much area of effect, and Prolif isn't what it used to be. Like if we had like old Prolif, I managed to do, or if I was doing the actual hit itself, they were pretty good. Like I would be stepping on bosses, I'd be killing everything, but while trying to do the ignite Prolif and stuff, it's just annoying, and I ended up like fuck it, putting on Impulsa.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that I really hate about Impulsa. Like for instance, for the incinerator, for AoE clearing, you know, I even have a build diary on this. It's like, well, Incinerate's really great, you know. The wave does a lot of damage. It's got a massive amount of AoE. It synergizes well with ignites. And it's really nice, but you're an elementalist, so you use Impulsa no matter what. It's like,
Yeah,
come on, dude. So I chose not to, but it's like the people who are playing Power Siphon and they're just like, okay, forget about
yeah,
Kinetic Blast. It's like
yeah,
I could just equip Kinetic Blast right now and my build's gonna be twice as good, but there's no Kinetic Blast. That's basically what I'm doing.
for sure. I actually ended up switching to Flame Blast, which is, it feels pretty good. I was like kind of surprised. I first had it in a 4-link and using a Combs. It kind of wasn't enough. And I'm still like trying to do ignite, so I have all like the swift affliction, burning damage, and stuff like that. And once I like put it, it's in a +2 tabula now, which helps a little bit too, obviously. But yeah, it actually feels really good. I'm literally like just right clicking things, and the entire pack dies.
Oh yeah.
Not as good as before, like 2015-16 ignite, but it feels pretty fun. It's pretty good.
I think it's better because
Really?
you have so much of it. Well, it's not that it's better compared to like that meta, but it's gotten stronger because PoE's gotten so much faster. But
Right.
like if you were to put it side to side, disregarding the meta, then yeah, it's better. It's just that it's not the best thing in the game like it used to be
Right.
in its current meta. But for sure, I mean,
I just feel like
Flame Blast is cool.
Prolift doesn't like. I feel like before, if I like right clicked with Prolift, it would like play the entire screen. Now I might have to right click like 2 or 3 times. I don't feel like it like AoEs as much as it did before.
I don't know, maybe you got to work on your build. I didn't get that impression at all.
But you're using impulses though, right?
Not on the Flame Blast. No. I didn't get to equip that. Maybe that's your problem actually, because you don't proliferate if the mobs explode through the Impulsa.
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you
not.
using a
No,
Stormfire?
I'm using a Tabula, and yeah, right now I'm using a two Stormfires.
And you don't feel like the Ignite's enough? Two
They're
Stormfires.
pretty good. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
But
For me, it was like really nice.
I just feel like I have to do a couple of more shots instead of doing one shot and the entire screen goes. I'm gonna have to go like thump thump thump.
Yeah, again, I didn't really get to experience it at like the super high level, only like early red maps with the SSF stuff. But yeah, felt good. Maybe I'll go back to it since it sounds
The
pretty
only
neat.
thing that I don't like about it is like the only way I have of shocking things is the Vinctar. Like I have a Vinctar, and that's the only way I can shock things.
How so?
I'm not crit anymore. Like I'm not crit at the moment. I'm EO. So that's interesting.
I mean, have you considered like maybe a innervate on a shield charge? I assume you're using shield charge.
Yeah.
That goes a really long way. For me, it's basically everything, because then you've got 35% base, and you hit the pack with shield charge, so you hit like 10 mobs anyway, because you've got so much AoE with Elementalist. You
Wait,
should try it out.
how
It's
much
really
shock
nice.
chance is Innervate?
20.
How are you getting the other 15? Oh, just the Stormfires?
Well, you have 10% probably from your Elementalist.
Oh, I'm not Elementalist. I'm Trickster.
Oh, yeah, no, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Never mind. This whole time I thought you were talking about that's the thing too that pissed me off, because initially I was constantly like, Trickster would be better naturally because you have so much mobility and so much
Yeah.
more cast speed.
It's
Like
really
it's so
fast.
nice. Yeah, it's really zoom zoomy, but since Impulsa is in the game, it's like,
I
well,
know. Yeah, no, that's the only reason that I am not elementalist is because I'm trying to like do something different. That's the only reason.
No, for sure. I mean, I did this. I did literally the exact same thing with the incinerate, where I
Mm.
started trickster. Everybody was like, "Yo, just do elementalist." I'm like, "Nah, I don't need to." Then I
Yeah.
got to like level 90 with it or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be making a build guide on it because it's just like suboptimal.
Yeah. For
Might as
sure.
well just reroll elementalist and
Yeah. Feel that.
making a build guide where it's like, hold up, guys. Like, I know this isn't that great, but if I was elementalist, then my build would be really good. It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make
Exactly.
for the best build guide.
Definitely agree with that. I just like, oh, dude, the shadow nodes, the attacking cast speed nodes, they're so fucking good. Like,
Yeah.
just insane. I cannot believe, like, especially if you put them like head to head versus the elementalist nodes, and
The
you're like,
3%, which, yeah.
Jesus fuck. Like, what did elementalists do to deserve this? It's like, oh, here's 4% attack and cast speed on 3 nodes, and then you have like the, is it 334 or is it just 333?
It's 3. It's just 3
It's
across the
so
board, I'm pretty
sad.
sure. It's
Like,
I
yeah.
don't know which early tree needs a little bit of revisiting. I think it's gotten to a point where it's like, yeah,
They did make
come
it
on.
a lot better with the life nodes though in the middle.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That
That sort
helped a
of
lot.
connection. Well, I guess that's something you can complain about with Shadow, that which makes sense even if the nodes are underpowered. Like the Shadows start, or not necessarily the very start, but past Cold Hearted and the whole nullification section, like that really doesn't make a whole
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Do you
So
think do you think we're ever gonna see like a second tree?
how do you mean?
Well, like I've been like I was talking about it a little bit on stream earlier today, and people were asking if I had like theories for 4.0, because they've said that 4.0 is a mega expansion. So
Hmm.
I was like, what do you think? Do you have any theories? We could talk about that a little bit. So, for example, well, I'll give you some time to think, but like some of the things I was saying, like could be a second tree, a second skill tree with 6 new classes or something, or I'd say there's are like the more unlikely ones, but something that could be more likely would be new ascendancies or new endgame, like into the beyond, into the breach, stuff like that, like a whole new alternative to mapping.
Yeah, I think two things immediately come to mind. The whole unfinished lore with harbingers and beyonders and all this sort of stuff, and creating a world where you're like jumping into these other dimensions and whatnot, especially now that we've got travel. So I think that would be definitely a cool thing, because that's what it was with harbinger. I had this whole theory
Yeah,
that never really came into fruition, right? Because harbingers are like supposed to foretell the coming of another, and we
yeah,
never got the other. So that was really weird. And then the other thing that immediately comes to mind for me anyway is pages of the Atlas, where you could optimize that stuff a lot more.
yeah.
I think that would be very cool.
I hope they like bring in. You've probably seen there was a post one time on Reddit. Some guy was suggesting like a weather system. That's something I
Ooh.
want so bad with like cross league stuff.
Oh yeah. No, I'm a little bit shocked that GGG hasn't delved into this sort of stuff yet, honestly. Where you can make these like night and day adjustments and changes, and yeah, changing the weather that makes the game feel so fresh
Yeah,
and so alive, while seemingly not really. It doesn't seem like it's that much effort, because a lot of other games are doing it, and it's incredibly customizable, even in like Dota and whatnot. Obviously, the app is a thousand times more uh, simplistic, but I feel like they could delve into that
I
and just
mean
mess.
the shape right now there, like someone said it, Nanette said in chat as well, is almost like a weather system, and it is very close to
Yeah.
like what I would imagine it would be like.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I would love that. Absolutely.
and that was my favorite thing about Tempest, was that I felt like every hour when I went into a new map, it could be like easier, it could be harder, or there could be 20 invaders or 20 exiles, and it was just so give it like a fresh feeling that I really like.
Yeah, I know for sure. I would like that. A lot more customizable stuff. Sure.
Speaking of past leagues, do you is Incursion something you want them to include in the main game?
I mean, it's almost not a choice. I feel like it's just going.
Hmm.
Would I want it? Yeah. for sure. I think that Valley pops up a little bit too often now, but they obviously didn't want people to feel like it's another bestiary. So I absolutely get that. People want to engage with the content, and GGG wants to give them that. But I think in terms of like the content itself, it's going through. So with me, it's fine. It's just right now it feels a little bit overwhelming. Like you feel stupid if you're not doing incursions almost to the point. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what's the reason why I'm not running incursions? My build's probably not strong enough. So does that mean I suck? Probably. So
How would you want it to be implemented? Would you want it to be in like Abyss and stuff where it's like every 10% or
maybe 25 maybe.
yeah. I've been saying too.
Just so you get the temple a little bit more often. Because the temple doesn't really feel like a super boss. But I do feel like the temple would have to go through a bunch of changes to really be implemented properly, which they
Well,
don't to be adjusting yet.
something I would want, like I would love to have it as 20-25%, and I would also love Alva to have like a daily or a rare currency that could
Mm.
either upgrade one room or change one room per day or something. Something like
Yeah.
that. It's so frustrating to always be one off, and it would be nice to like once a day be able to get like some form of change in it.
No, for sure. For me, the biggest thing is how uncustomizable and unrewarding the boss feels.
Yeah.
That's like probably my biggest thing because the impressions that I was getting originally when they were announcing this sort of stuff was like, oh, you're gonna have all these bosses and all this customization that you can do. I mean, it really doesn't feel customizable. Don't get me wrong. Again, the incursions feel great, but the temple itself, it's like, well, I like currency. Let me get a currency room. I really like
Yep.
vol orbing and getting big items. Let me get this. It doesn't really feel like you have that many options. While, for instance, if you were to focus on, I don't know, Omnitech gets minions, then maybe he has a higher probability of dropping minion-based
Yeah.
items and this sort of stuff.
Well,
I think that would be big.
so I feel like they've like nailed the incursions. They were amazing, and
Yeah.
a lot of the rooms, like the corruption room, is amazing. The
Mhm.
sacrifice room as well, perfectly balanced. The only thing I'd like to see on the sacrifice room would be in a tier 3 sacrifice room. It'd be cool if you could put a vial in and have a chance for another vial.
Mhm.
Um, and the same with like a lot of the other rooms. I actually quite like the currency rooms and the map rooms. I feel like most of them are fairly decent, but the problem
Mhm.
is the ones that buff the Omnitech. I don't know why it doesn't change the drops. Like the
Yeah.
trap room and stuff would be like, yeah, sure, you get a cool blue item, but you have a decent chance of getting that off the Omnitech anyway. It would be cool, like, I think every architect you kill should affect the should either, have a chance of dropping something exciting. Right now there's no point in killing architects. Or like either they drop something exciting or they make the Omnitech at the end drop something. Like
Right.
they're so pointless. They're just like this annoying, slightly tanky thing that you just leave alone unless you one shot it.
Yeah, I threw a very loose idea before about that, where the architects will be affected by the temples that you're running.
Yeah,
So let's, for example, say that like incursions are going to have to be harder in terms of time management. I think in higher tier maps, the density is just so high that it's very difficult to fail one if you've got even like an average build.
yeah,
So if they were to increase the difficulty of that, I think it would be cool, for instance, if you were to fail an incursion or just you wouldn't manage to kill an architect or some sort of mechanic where you would be punished in the temple by not doing so well with the incursion. So let's say, for instance, you were to make the decision, okay, do I want my architect and temple to be stronger or do I want him to be normal? And now if I were to not upgrade my room and leave the architect, now this architect is going to be pissed. And when I meet him in the
yeah,
temple, he's going to be bigger and badder and drop a lot more loot, but he's also probably going to be a lot stronger and able to kill you. So
yep,
that's a decision that you can make, or if you were to fail, then you gotta fight him either way or try to avoid him, or he limits the loot since they're typically pretty close to like the big money drops from the
yeah.
temple.
No, I agree. I would definitely want like a lot more risk versus reward and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But aside from that as well, I'm really really disappointed with the Roomba. Like, it's just not an exciting boss. Like Adziri is really cool. The entire like Adziri is it's really well made. It's really set up. Like the only thing that I can imagine as happening is that like Chris and everyone sitting around the table and they're like, what is gonna be like the cool endgame boss, and they probably had like lots of cool ideas of like, like some sort of like weird king figure or something. And then
Hmm.
I just imagine that a Roomba was like vacuum cleaning at the GGG office, and it like knocked into the door, and they're all looking at it, and somebody's like, "Oh my god, that's it."
That's it.
I just,
Goddamn.
it's just not an exciting boss. Like I
Yeah.
never feel like I'm having an epic fight. It's like this, like it's this shitty vacuum cleaner that if you're Blade Vortex and you stand under it, suddenly the debuff is stacked so high that you're insta dead, or it pops out these flamethrowers that insta kill you. But it just never feels like an exciting fight.
I mean, I
Like,
like the idea of it. I really do. I like the effects too. I think one of the biggest things about Incursion that I really appreciate is how cinematic the architects are, where they just like fly up in the sky and start charging
yeah,
up, and you're like, holy shit, that guy's doing something.
yeah,
I gotta back out. I think that's really cool. But yeah, you don't really get that a whole lot. You know what? Maybe it's like a matter of getting screen shake or something. Maybe everybody at GGG plays
maybe,
with screen shake, and then the
maybe.
Roomba's like super crazy. But we're just
Dude,
going in, and it's like pew pew. It doesn't really do a whole lot.
I mean, like,
So,
it does have some cool effects, like the blue waves and
yeah,
stuff. And I remember the first time I got hit by a blue wave, I was like, okay, I'm never letting that hit me again because I'm
yeah.
going to die. But, like, so it is like a fairly scary fight. It's just something about a Roomba that I just.
You don't have a unjustified fear of Roombas.
Yeah.
We can. Hey man, ExileCon's not too far away. Maybe we can change that. Imagine, imagine if GGG would like deeply traumatized everybody at ExileCon with like some crazy ass Roomba meteor or something, and next expansion they just implement it. Everybody approaching the game just has no idea why that's scary, but everybody was ExileCon is just absolutely terrified. I mean,
I'm
it's a
super
good
excited
social
for ExileCon.
experiment.
Super excited.
No, that'd be cool. No,
Um,
I do like the idea. It just needs more for sure. No, I absolutely agree. The Roomba needs a little bit more action.
yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll see the architects being changed a bit. Like right now, they feel so pointless. Um,
Hmm.
but I do think the rooms dropping something like a tier 3 upgrade. I think like that was really cool. Like the Tempest rooms, and they all having like the unique item and stuff like that. I actually do feel like there is like some use in upgrading like the trap room, for example, to level 3. I just wish it also affected like the Roomba or the architects.
Hmm.
Um, Something I feel has missed the mark pretty hard is the Tempest chamber upgrade, because
Sure.
I don't feel like they take into account how slow you're clearing the temple with either a radiating or a Val. And obviously, there's no actual quant bonus. Even if you do a workshop, it's like what, 25%. So
Hmm.
it's like just the temple doesn't drop any stuff. I wish it was. I wish it was affected by the maps you had done. Like,
Hmm.
it would be really cool if say you had been doing like only 140% quant maps, that would affect your tempo. Like, whereas if you were doing like, some people are spamming quarry, which obviously has no quant and stuff, and like it takes you 2 to 3 minutes to do the 11 incursions if you're fast, and then you have a temple and you can run in, boom, run and get a corruption room or whatever. Whereas like that, in my opinion, should get lesser reward in the temple than somebody that's on like 8 Val maps in a row.
Yeah, I think always a big consideration for them is whether or not, because the temple already offers things that it drops, but some might argue that it's just not fun, you
Hmm.
know? So I think the good old give it more density kind of needs to be brought up, but in some other interesting way where it would simply be more fun. Because incursions are fun. I mean, unless you're playing a summoner, then they're not fun. But overall, they're
Yeah.
fun and it's in their map meta anyway. The temple really, not only are there all these issues that we mentioned before, but also you just don't really have fun. You're not really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Other than, yeah, maybe getting something corrupted and whatnot.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm mostly looking forward to the rooms. I'm like, a lot of the times I'm just running around. I'm not. Sometimes I'm not even killing things. Like, if it's a low tempo, I don't care. Like, sure, if it's tier 16, 15, then yeah, I'll be like full clearing that stuff. But
Hmm.
that's just for the map drops.
Yeah.
But the rooms themselves are so exciting. Like the vault, the corruption, even
Hmm.
the armor room. I felt it's pretty good.
I don't even. That's the one that increases life?
No, the armor room just literally drops
Oh, you
loads
mean
of uniques
oh,
and div cards. Like I got like 3 tabulas out of that, and like so many like div cards for like the Dapper Prodigy and stuff.
you don't mean armory? It's like the room with the things. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I
Well,
do feel like they
sure.
did a lot of the rooms.
No, I don't think there's a problem with the rooms per se. Like I like the design of the rooms. I like the design of the architects. It just doesn't glue together as well as
Yeah.
it might in the future, I think. Because honestly, I don't think GGG is just sitting there and going, yeah, this is perfect. Let's just
Yeah,
slap it
for
in the
sure.
game. I think
And
they're looking to do more stuff with it.
yeah, I agree. Like it's definitely something that can change, and obviously stuff like that can be hard to see on like small scale testing. Like, oh, is this good enough right now? But
Hmm.
they do usually change things.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Um, but yeah, like very, very, very exciting for stuff like this to stay in the game. I actually want them to bring back file side areas. I thought they were like really cool. Was kind of hoping they would be back in now with the Val. It's like this is like a Val expansion. So.
Mm. I mean, how do you mean bring them back?
Well, like I would want them, or like not bringing them back, but bringing them into maps. Like especially with the no loading
Oh.
screen feature that they have for the incursions. I think it'd be cool if like a Val side area. Well, maybe they would need a loading screen if they were gonna add, or like say a Val area would add like L reflect and min max.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be me out, but
No, I mean, yeah, I haven't even thought about that. That's pretty cool. I would like that.
yeah.
Possibly, yeah, possibly as a side zone or something. Or
Yeah,
maybe you've got two doors.
because yeah, and they drop like crafted six things and stuff, and maybe they'd have a fairly decent chance of that in maps. That could be like something exciting. I know a lot of people are
Hmm.
always worried about like having too many things um in the game, but I actually think that like sure you might not want to clutter it, but you can put it in as something like fairly rare. Like
Hmm.
you can't do that with mechanics like talisman, where you are like you have to collect X amount, and it's gonna suck if you're always just on like 30% of an upgrade. But with things that like you don't like, even if you just get one, it's a cool thing. Like I love having that in the game.
Yeah, the most appealing part of Incursion, I think in general for me, just from like a gameplay point of view, was the fact that they would extend maps, and instead of running a map in a minute, now I would run it in like a minute 30, right? If I'm like really
Yeah,
popping off. But let's say the average build runs a map in 3 minutes. I really feel like if you're grinding hard, that isn't long enough. So incursions would always increase that clear time by like 25% or something, obviously depending on the map. So adding in a corrupted zone that would do something similar, yeah, I'm a pretty big advocate for that because I personally really dislike rolling a million maps and then realizing that I've gotten 3% of a level or something like that. So anything that keeps me in the map for longer, I love it.
here's something I'm surprised we didn't talk about. The chaos spitters. Have you been like surprised with how like hostile they are? Like for me, they remind me of like Legacy Devourers, where you enter an area and you see just like hell coming at you. Especially in the start when I still played with a lightning golem for like the first two incursions, and I was like, no, fuck this shit.
Well, yeah, there's two things to that. One, I really haven't had any issues. I mean, I haven't played a trapper or anything like that, so I just get in the faces of mobs and do my thing. So I really haven't had any issues with them. But it is super rewarding to see all these people you always have those people like, why aren't you using a golem?
Yeah,
Or me going to somebody's stream and going like, dude, you should stop using a golem because
like
this and this. And they're like, but they give me 20% accuracy. It's like, well, yeah, and then you see these highlights where they just enter an incursion. They're like, "Oh shit, I'm surrounded by mobs," and they're like, "I gotta dodge this," and they move, but everything's already targeted their golem, and they just instantly pop. I'm just like, yeah, I love this shit. The more stuff that counters golems and punishes people for using those shitty things, the better.
do you not feel like they should just change golems a bit though, instead of like punishing people for them? And
Hell
like
yeah.
I did see the Mr. Mutant thing, and you were like, forehead, I told you.
Yeah, I literally told him, like I was literally there and I was like, dude, you don't need this for regen. And then the golem got sniped by a turbo vol slam and he died because of it. I'm just like, dude, what am I supposed to tell you? I mean, we saw it coming, but no, I don't think it should. You know, there's very few things that make me happier than people who use a golem and then get punished for it. Sure.
Yeah, I the lightning golem feels so like it's so good, so nice because it's attack and cast speed. So I love using it. But now this thing, I'm like, oh really? Fuck this.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I like it.
it's definitely the closest feel to Legacy Devourers we've had in a long time.
Mm-mm. And then I remember I played something where the spitters were kind of annoying because I remember looking up because I wasn't sure if it's spell or if it's attack and whatnot. Because I remember I almost died. I was like, oh, okay, I better look this stuff up to know how to counter these guys properly. But other than that, yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't really had issues. I can imagine absolutely with so many people playing trappers and whatnot, how those guys can really ruin your day.
yeah. I have 62% spell dodge on my trapper. It's great. I do nothing.
Nice.
Like Quartz Flask is like extra nice this thing.
Yeah, quartz flask. I think in general, I remember, I think like a league or two ago, somebody was like, dude, just use a quartz flask. I'm like,
Yeah.
you idiot, why would I use a quartz flask? And then I looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute, hold up,
Yep. That's like
hold up.
me. Yeah, no, like I mean, a lot of the potions are actually more useful. I remember the first time Embu was like, "Why aren't you using what's that? Is it Aqua Flask? I don't know what it's even called."
Aquamarine, yeah, the one that
Yeah,
puts jeweled ground. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, "Why the fuck would I use an Aquamarine?" He was like, "It's really good versus Shaper," and I used it, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is amazing." There's like so
Yeah.
many things like that. It's hard to think about sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're just not used to it, right? Especially with Flask, you just take it for granted for such a long time, and everybody's got their go-to Flask setup, right? I'm kind of like granite armor guy. With my flasks, but sometimes when I switch to something else, it feels pretty good to be experimenting. One of the biggest things that I've learned this league is how little you really get frozen. That's something that I kind of took from Steel's character when he was pushing ladder, where he was using the crab pantheon with the freeze stuff and just the freeze removal on my life flask. You
Yeah.
really never ever get frozen, and even if you do, it's like for a very split second. So that's really modified my flasks to in a pretty significant way, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, I for a very long time because I don't want to have to deal, especially while reading chat. I don't want to have to deal with corrupting blood. So
Oh
I
yeah.
always have heat on my life flask for like the last years now. I think it's just too good not to. And
Oh yeah. No, I can
I,
see that.
yeah, I just got into the habit of every time I open a box, I hit my life flask every single time.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's very good. I've been learning that this league, and yeah, it's super effective, especially if you're looking to, if you've got like alchemist or something, and you're
Yeah,
looking to have adrenaline on your quicksilver with also alchemist or chemist, the one effectiveness. I think it's alchemist.
alchemist.
Yeah. Then if you've got both of those things, then whew, it really speeds you up. Even
Yeah,
if you're playing a movement build. Like I remember when I was playing BV and I was shield charging, it felt awful. But then you get that Quicksilver with adrenaline.
I know.
Holy moly, you run through an armor real fast. You don't feel like you're hitting any walls ever.
I was so lucky with my flasks. This league, I was like really dreading that on SSF because I feel like whenever I'm playing trade league, I always like end up just buying them because it takes so long to roll. Or like
Yeah.
really lucky with adrenaline and my heat flask. I was like, oof, phew.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like especially if you're looking for something more specific, like chemist 23% plus
Yeah.
basalt of warding. It's like, well, there goes 400 alterations and it's
Oh, I
gone.
would straight up divine flasks.
Yeah, I divine them too. Absolutely. I've always been divining my flasks on SSF, and every time I sell it, like it's a two-step thing on my stream because I get a flask and then I go, oh no, it's only 20%, and then people are like, wait, isn't that what you wanted? And then I vendor a tabula, and everybody's like, oh my god, he vendor a tabula, and then I divine the flask, and everybody really shits their pants. It's
Yeah.
like Jesus, what is he doing?
I know. It's
What is
great.
this?
I had that a few times. Good. Yeah, no, like people always get surprised, like especially if you find like a weapon or like a shitty armor and you vendor it right after the map and just like don't mention it. So many people always say like, "Mr. Broadcaster, you vendored the six sync," and I'm like, "Oh no!"
Oh no. The best part is when I was really feeling it. I was like, I opened the box and or something was mirrored. I can't remember, and I got a mirrored six link. and I got 2 of them, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. I'm gonna vendor them, and everybody's gonna freak out. And then I vendored both of them, and they vendored into 2 Chancellors, and I'm just like, oh fuck.
I've done that a few times.
That was the first time I've ever done that. I was like, wait a minute.
Where are my divine orbs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a little awkward. Everybody was like, dude, why did you do that? I'm like, dog, if you vendor the 6-link, you get a divine. Wait a minute. Yeah.
Speaking of vendoring, are you surprised that 5-links still don't vendor for anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right?
Mhm.
It's weird, but I mean, I can't really think of anything where it would feel particularly great. It just feels bad. I don't need it to
Yeah,
feel great. It just feels bad.
even one fusing, it wouldn't be worth picking up, but I wanted to vendor for something.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, like it just feels bad seeing a wisdom scroll or whatever for a transmute. Yeah, I don't know. Fun.
Maybe there's some like economical reasons for this that we just absolutely cannot grasp that GGG is aware of. I don't know. I mean,
Maybe.
5-links drop pretty frequently at this point when you clear this fast. So
Do they? Yeah, but like compare them to 6-sockets. If they were worth less than a 6-socket, that would still be okay. Like they drop less than 6-sockets.
I mean, sure, but then that's also stupid, right? We're going from one stupid thing to another stupid thing. So
I actually think I would feel completely okay with them selling for one fusing. I just have a problem with them selling for nothing. It just feels weird.
I think it would have to be meaningful, like maybe 5 fusings or something, so that it wouldn't be like, yeah, why is this still worse than a 6-socket? But again, maybe that would have an impact that we don't really.
I mean,
That
yeah,
I
I
don't
see that, but I
understand.
mean, it was more in the concern of like if that is the case that they don't want to like affect the economy, and I'm sure like
Mhm.
even small things can affect the economy pretty hard, but
Yeah.
it just feels wrong. Lester or Bregel, give me something. I don't care.
It just feels wrong.
Yeah, that's not right, man. That's not right. It's something I hadn't thought about until I saw a Reddit post about it this morning. Was the like zone transitions are actually like sort of very outdated. With like they just turn like completely white when you hold over them instead of like a few other games will have like like a glow was posted from Diablo. Like the
Mhm.
sun would glow more. Yeah, I didn't really think about that until I saw the post this morning.
Huh. I think we take a lot of that stuff for granted because it's just been like that for the longest time. If
Yeah.
something's shitty, but that's just how it is, then yeah. That's why it's always super interesting. For instance, Angry was doing a series a really long time ago where he was introducing his girlfriend at the time. I think they're married now, Rachel, to like Path of Exile, and that was super interesting because it's incredibly eye-opening, not only as a player to what people notice, and then you go, this is an absolutely new player. They've played for 10 minutes, but what they're saying like makes sense. Like maybe some stuff with the potions like not being super duper intuitive and whatnot pre stuff, and then also as a content creator it's just really interesting because oftentimes you have the same response to the same sort of comment,
Yeah.
and you're just like, dude, yeah, obviously, but then at the same time when you really think about it, it's like, oh no, actually that isn't that obvious, and I can see how you could have thought about that. So
That
it's always
was
super interesting watching stuff like that.
Yeah, that was what was really hard with when I made my beginner guide,
Hmm.
because I just tried to like dumb it down more and more until it was like
Yeah,
it is still really hard
we
because you
just
take
can't
so much for
relate to these
granted.
fucking
Yeah,
noobs, right?
well,
Absolutely.
it's just so hard to like remember what you didn't know when you started because you take it all for
Yeah.
granted. So
Yeah. No,
it's hard.
absolutely. I mean, when I started, I was watching Crip, and he was playing Energy Shield and Ignite and shit. So I was like, okay, I want to play Fireball, CI from the very beginning, and I would like purposely avoid life notes while trying to like get to CI and like the super bizarre, fucked up ES skill tree. And I made it to like level 22. I'm like, hold up, this something's just not right here.
No.
So I can absolutely see how a lot of things like that can't seem particularly obvious.
Yeah, what I ended up doing for my beginner guide was doing the script for it live on stream, so like even new players could be like, "Hey, I don't understand that." And
Mhm.
I think the hardest or thing that I thought didn't think about the most was I used like magic and blue and stuff like that, just completely interchangeably.
Oh yeah.
But
I
just
toss
small stuff
around
like that.
+1 all the time.
Yeah.
If I'm making like a racing guy or something, I'm like, oh, just get a +1, blah blah blah. It's like
Yeah.
+1. What you mean,
Oh, a
homie?
lot of the racing stuff is really complicated. And that's a good time to change over to racing. Like obviously Havoc and a few other people have been arranging, like Jamsa have been arranging community races for us now. It's
Mm-hmm.
been pretty fun. How do you feel about this compared to like the GGG arranged races?
Mm, I mean, the marketing side of it seems a little bit better. uh, I think it's really cool, and for me, these races are really fun because I personally really miss racing, and it matters to me a lot. And that's kind of always how I've built my stream around racing and whatnot. And I think they're doing everything that they can do with the limited tools that they have. Um, but I think there's a lot more to it, and I think racing can be greater if GGG were to support it properly. But that's
Yeah.
obviously like a really lengthy topic because you can argue that it's detrimental for the game, and there's few
Well,
ways of monetizing it and whatnot. I disagree with all of
yeah,
these
me
statements,
too.
but you can make that argument.
Yeah, no,
You know,
I do see that.
yeah, for me, it's always like I always compare it to Diablo 3, right? Not releasing any content and then less and less and less and less people playing it to the point where it's just like, dude, you're not doing anything with your game. It sucks. And that's kind of what happened with racing, where it was less and less and less popular while GGG wasn't giving it any support at all. And then eventually it got to the point where they're like, wait, racing's like actually bad. It's like, well, yeah, of course, it's been the same shit for 5 years. Who's gonna play this crap?
Yeah.
So that's really rough, you know?
I personally think some of the best ways of monetizing it would be something like, a Dota compendium or like a Fortnite battle pass or just something where you don't necessarily have to be like winning the races, but like participating in a lot and like doing like X amount would like give you scores and you would like earn more microtransactions as you're playing.
Yeah, I wouldn't really know how you could implement that properly, but like for even if maybe not even playing, because a lot of people don't enjoy playing racing. That's like one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
People love watching it, but
Yeah.
I don't think that many enjoy it at its core. There's obviously things like headhunters and ledge races and
Mm.
different experiences like descent and all this sort of stuff. I think people really like that.
Yeah.
But for the normal racing, it's kind of like it's got this like StarCraft quality to it where a lot of people watch it, but not a lot of people play it. And then for it's getting less and less and less popular. So maybe even implementing rewards like in Counter-Strike, if the observer mode were to
Yeah.
ever exist, where you can just observe and you have a chance of receiving something, or it adding up to some sort of XP bar that grants you something else, right? Maybe
Yeah.
even so you stick around for the rest of the race. You're racing, then you die at whatever goes. I don't know, for whatever reason you stop. You're like, oh, let me just watch this other player who maybe was a spot above me or below me and see how he's doing and what can I get out of this.
I mean, I would do that on the Realm Royale thing. I would like stick around and watch, even though there was no reward. I just thought it was pretty cool to see, like, oh shit, this
Oh,
guy better win
100%.
because he finished me
Oh
off.
yeah,
So it was pretty cool.
100%.
But
Yeah,
I
that's the fun, right?
actually,
If the
yeah,
guy who's beating you is a noob, or if he's really good, but then you lost to him or to somebody in the case of racing who was below you, right? But you can see that they suck, and that motivates you. Hey, I can do better than this. Like next time, I'm really gonna go for it.
they could also implement stuff like that into like Twitch, like we had the drops before with the hats. But yeah,
Mm,
I'm in the same boat. I actually don't enjoy the normal races as much.
mm-hmm.
Like I would probably enjoy them as part of a race season, but definitely the thing that I enjoy is the descent, endless ledge. I would actually
Yeah.
love having like some crazy like I think this would only be something that streamers or like if diehard people would be interested in, but like a really long endless ledge. Like 5 or 10 hour endless ledge. I think that'd be hilarious. And yeah, I don't think more than like 3 or 4 people would be interested in that. It'd be pretty
I
fun
think
to
people would
watch.
be interested. I think people would be committed, honestly. Yeah, maybe obviously it wouldn't be like a because sometimes people throw numbers like that. It's like, Rise, what do you think about a 1 month endless ledge race? I'm like, fucking I mean, come on, man. What are you
that's
thinking
that's
about?
very long.
But like, yeah, I don't know, maybe even 3, 4 hours, right? Like those Blamp races, those things lasted even up to 24 hours of like actual playtime trying to, get to Malachi and whatnot. That would I thought that was really cool. People
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It seems successful. An offhand event like this every now and then. I don't see how it would be detrimental, you know?
I definitely agree. Like extended things like Blunt and stuff is really fun, and
Hmm.
I get that, especially for a casual player, someone who doesn't enjoy stuff like that. It can be pretty like annoying to play, but it'd be really cool as a spectator event. Like I would love watching like a 1 week or 3 day Blunt with streamers.
Well, but that's the thing too, right? If you have the possibility of watching, I think that really extends because you always have these people who are sitting in your chat forever and then they go, "Oh, I really like the build that you're playing. It's making me want to play PoE again." And I'm like, "Dude, you're here every day. You don't even play PoE." He's like, "Yeah, I haven't opened the game in 3 months." And
Yeah.
I mean, something like this really goes to show where they would do the event, right? They would participate, and would it be going great for them? They wouldn't really enjoy it or whatever because it's just too difficult and they don't think they can do it. And then they go onto a stream and they're like, "Oh, this guy's having a lot of fun and he's doing this thing that seems to be working. Let me try this too." And they get back into it rather than, just going, "Oh, this is stupid," and then leaving entirely.
Do you think? Do you think something like this? Someone brought it up in chat, and people have talked about it before. Do you think something like an MMR system would work at all, like a rating ranking system?
I have no idea, honestly. I'd have to like really, 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 really think about it. I mean, maybe a hidden MMR system. Maybe if it would be like kind of battle royale-ish style. Let's say like the race starts and people are on 10 different servers, right? And they're not necessarily racing amongst everybody, right? Everybody in the same race, and there's only one winner. But instead, there's like 10 winners because people are grouped up in
Mm.
that way. And then let's say after that, you take the let's say 8 winners, right? And you've got 2 groups of people for like a weekend final or something like that. And you've always got that motivation because you've got different brackets of what exactly you can do and where you can get. And I think that would be cool, and it really would be, it sounds like a lot, but it would be essentially 3 events that people would have to commit their time to. And I
Yeah.
think that would be nice. And the people who wouldn't get through the initial group stages or whatever could watch the other people who are getting there. And that's easy to track. There's only 8 people, so observing those would be quite simple rather than, yeah, like we mentioned before,
Yeah.
observing 100 different players in the race.
See, I think for me personally, I would love more like just being able to commit to like, a 20, 30, 40 minute session. Like when I was
Mm,
doing all the Valve run practice, I was sitting there thinking like I wish I was like in like some form of like MMR bracket or tournament here where I would like
mm.
click like join and it would be like me against 3 other people. Like that would like make it so much more fun for me. And it was like, oh, you lost MMR, you gained MMR based on like how well you did. I think that would be really cool just for practice for actual races.
Mm. I
I
mean,
think that is something that would be pretty easy to like fill up, like just like a four people queuing up for a Valorant. That I can see that happening fairly often.
see, but this is the thing where I really would have no idea because it would have to be trial and error because you could say the same thing about Fortnite, right? Everybody in Fortnite is like absolute shit. Like people are awful at that game. And the people who are good really, 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 really stand out. Like you can immediately tell a good player from a noob.
Yeah.
But that game doesn't have an MMR system, and people still appreciate it because they go into it with the idea of I will not win, right?
Mm.
Because the probability is always against them. There's 100 people, there's only one winner. Technically, you can approach it as I have a 1% chance if you exclude everything. I have a 1% chance of winning. And that's like a big success with that game. I feel like if in a way GGG could make the losing aspect of racing fun, that would be something good, and then we wouldn't need an MMR system because that would work equally as well. But it's just a different approach, so it's very tough to make a call on whether or not a MMR would be like that. But I mean, MMR PoE has PvP. Everybody, there's player versus player, and there's MMR there, and it's
Ah,
functional.
yes, yeah. You're not wrong. Listen, I don't know. I I always wish there was like full loot PvP and PoE. I would love that. That'd be so fun. Can you imagine like, like challenging me to a PvP match and like boom, Voltel deading me and like getting all my stuff? That'd be hilarious.
I mean, Yeah. I mean, nobody would participate, right?
I guess.
I feel like PvP like that has to be there. It can't ever be optional, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's like it's a really good system where people just enjoy fighting against each other. Like for instance,
Diablo.
like in Diablo, yeah, in Diablo 2, I'd say so, yeah. But then you would have like these older MMORPGs where yeah, you die and you're just fucked out of everything, and that's it. It didn't. There was a recent game that Albion, I think, tried that, where you would lose everything on dying, and it was like super faction based and whatnot, and
I
that game
didn't end
didn't
up
seem to
buying
do too
that.
well.
I mean, I think a bit large problem with that is like a large percentage of the player base just want to get home from work, turn on a game and play, and then dealing with
Hmm.
like losing 10 hours can be pretty shitty.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how sweet. I just lost the last 5 sessions. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously
No,
stuff
that's
like that's
rough.
easier to deal with when it's like you or me. It's like, oh, I'm 36 hours in. Let's go.
Let's go sleep.
Yeah.
36 hours? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's cool. The opposites are always nice. Something that about Cutthroat that I always enjoyed is how stupid it would make you feel at times. Because to anybody that doesn't know, Cutthroat is
Yeah.
basically like a battle royale and PoE kind of, and everybody can kill everybody, everybody can enter everybody's zone. And what would always make me feel really stupid is that upon death, all your items would drop. But if you were to die to mobs, your items still drop. So you're like hardcore PvPing, you've killed 5 guys, you're feeling on top of the world, and then like a monkey hits you and you just explode, and you're just like, oh, okay. I have never going to have a chance to pick up my gear ever again, right? Especially if it was like a progression Cutthroat. I remember dying on Comb one time, and it was like, well, this fight's super easy, I should be fine. Then I die, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just get back in and pick up all my shit. No way. Like it was over. There was no way I was picking up any stuff and getting back out. So I don't know, small things like that getting implemented would be cool too.
See, I think the problem about Cutthroat for me, I'd rather have it been different where it was something like a normal race for 10 to 30 minutes and you all gear up and stuff. And then
Hmm.
you all fight each other in like one area or like different areas. Problem for me was that if you were fighting other players, you were not winning the race. And if you're winning the race, you didn't see anyone else. It was just like a
Oh no,
completely vanilla
absolutely.
race. And I just hated
The
that.
Cutthroat races made no sense at all.
Mm.
I mean,
And
the only time where it made sense, and this was trying really hard, was I think it was something where like Dead and Doom was first, and I like haunted him down and murdered him, and I somehow got first instead of him because I just stole his XP.
nice.
That was good, but that never happened.
Yeah.
Like ever that happens. For the most part, the Cutthroats were just like, oh, get to Crossroads and die instantly to Arc Trap. Have fun.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like a lot of the skills weren't balanced. Oh my god, can you imagine if we had some of Voltal dead there now? Oof,
Yeah, for
crazy.
sure.
It was fun though. It was fun a few times, and especially as a streamer, it was a bit rough because people would keep like entering your instance, and I was have to hide what server I was on, and then Lifespring would hunt me down and just scream protection money and
Yeah,
yanking me
Lifespring
over
was
and over
hunting me
again.
down too. But I murdered him every time, and then I enter his instance, and then he begged me not to kill him. So it felt good. As
Yeah,
long as you wouldn't get to like level 12, because I was playing like Frostwall and SRS and like Freeze Pulse, all this Mimi stuff. So as long as I didn't get to level 12, it felt great. But then as soon as I got to level 12, it's like, oh, I go one shot by arc traps. Okay, great.
yeah, that's the problem. Like that's the same thing for me. Like I remember my first battle, or not battle royale, but like first cut through. I was so excited. I was gonna grab Flicker Strike and then Grand Sam. I was gonna flicker onto someone and start stunning them. Then I flickered on, and my character just disappeared, and all I heard was like, bzz. Like,
Yeah.
oh. So yeah, that kind of sucked. But yeah, I feel like they did the battle royale really well. That I really
Oh yeah.
enjoyed that. I couldn't believe that was just like a first of April thing, and so many people were like complaining of balance and stuff. But for something that was like that quickly done and as a joke, oh my god, I loved it.
Yeah, I think even they were just like super duper surprised. But I think that's kind of the thing for every game. It's like Battle Right is making a battle royale now where everybody just went, wait a minute, no matter how we do this, people are having fun. And I think stuff like that is really important for PoE.
Mhm. I think that could like be a permanent addition to the game too. where it would say like, like queue timer or like estimated time to 100. And it could
Mm-hmm.
say like, like, oh, this is a slow time for PoE, so it might be like 10 minutes until your game fills up to 100 or 80 or 60 or whatever you want it.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely like, I had so much fun with it.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. I can see
Um,
that.
and there's so much you can do with it too. You can have like, I mean, if you want to have different modes and stuff, obviously you need it to be more popular, but limited a little bit, like maybe no split arrow. But the first game I was in, I actually won with cold snap. It was so fun. I was like running around like cold snap, missing,
Yeah.
cold snap, and then finally managed to get him down. It was so much fun.
Yeah, no, I only played Freeze Pulse and Cold Snap and Frostwall and all this stuff, so yeah. For me that was definitely the most fun, for sure. And like especially if you were to meet those split arrow dudes who would be like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna shoot him in the face, and then you put up a frost wall and they're like, uh-oh.
Oh yeah,
What now?
yeah. Like there was a surprising amount of depth to it, and a few things that worked really well. Like obviously, getting Wanderlust was huge because nobody could freeze you. I ended up
Yeah.
playing that for ages. It was crazy.
Yeah. No, I played all the way through, and now everybody who rolls around, and you mentioned Battle Royale, people are typically like, oh, I didn't get to play that because it was only 1 day or 1.5 day, I can't
Yeah.
remember. And yeah, people are really looking forward to it. So I feel like GGG plays their cards right, if they ever will. I hope so.
I hope so.
When it comes to this stuff, they'll do pretty great.
Um, and have you thought about? Do you want to go to ExileCon? Because that's like going to be a lot of announcements and stuff there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's scary, right? Because it can happen. On one side, you want to go because it's like, well, absolutely, man. I've been playing this game forever. I want to meet all these people. I wanna try to get a date with Chris Wilson. All this stuff, dude. I'll try my damnness. But at the same time, it's kind of like the Twitch Prime thing where people went to TwitchCon and then TwitchCon was like, "Hey, everybody, Twitch Prime!" And then everybody was like, "Wait a minute, I'm at TwitchCon. I can't stream right now." Like, how does this? You guys fucked me. And then they go on Twitch and it's like, oh, this guy's gotten like 5 billion subscribers, and I'm still sitting at the convention. I'm scared that something like that could potentially happen with TwitchCon, where they
I
just announce a whole
mean,
lot of stuff, and
sure.
just the people there won't be able to cover it.
Surely that's never gonna happen again after Twitch Prime though, just because of that, because that was like the funniest
Yeah,
stuff ever.
yeah, but maybe that's like it might happen every time per con, right? Who knows? Maybe GGG is gonna do something like that. I mean,
Maybe. I mean, they do talk to their community quite a lot, so I'm not
yeah.
particularly worried about that.
I think there's only one solution. They have to fly out every single individual, and then nobody's gonna have an issue, right? Because if everybody's there, then nobody's making
While
money.
ExileCon is on, every single stream is off.
Yeah, you can't stream PoE, period.
And then
And
you'll
then you
have.
get, hello guys, this is Riker, and it's just like, no,
Dude,
fucker.
somebody streaming from their phone or something.
Yeah.
But
And then
yeah,
you
I'm.
just like the phone drops, it cracks, they like hunt him down, you hear like scrambling because the TwitchCon security found him.
I'm so excited that I've never been to New Zealand. Like I'm so excited that they were like even thinking about having one.
Yeah. I'm No, I'm really excited about the entire prospect. I personally didn't really think that they were like considering it,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool, especially since they have been going to meetups and whatnot. But maybe that was the catalyst. That's why it's always so cool when people are organizing meetups and whatnot, and you never know who really shows up. Like there was that small like Aussie meetup with like 10 people, and then Chris Wilson showed up, and it's just like,
Yeah,
shit. Guess
that's
this
very
is a
cool.
bigger deal than I thought.
Yeah, I wish that's a little shitty thing about living in Europe that it's like so far away from everything. It's like how many
What? That's the
hours?
best thing about living in Europe. You're so
Right.
far away, but you're never like super duper far away. It feels like.
I guess, but it's gonna be like how many hours is it to New Zealand? Let's see, like Belfast to New Zealand. It's a lot of hours.
Yeah, I'm using the Chris Wilson MTX. I'm just a floating head, guys.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just $1,000. That's not bad. But like, yeah, it's such a
What?
long trip.
For me, it was showing like 2.5 or something. Oh.
Flight time, like 30 hours. Wait, what? Here, okay, well, the first Google reply says flight time from Belfast to Auckland is 5 hours and 30 minutes.
What?
It straight up says that 5 hours 30 minutes.
I think
Quickest
that's a
one-stop flight
Auckland.
takes 6 hours.
Yeah, something doesn't seem right there.
Guys, that's like a Concorde flight or something.
Yeah, that's like a teleportation device.
Yeah.
I don't think the technology is there yet.
I don't want to ride a rocket. Screw that. It's just like, okay, sis, you ready to strap me on top of a rocket? So,
Yeah, that's how they filmed Jackass. They thought they were going somewhere, but
yeah, that's surprising. Maybe it's. Is there anywhere else called? No, it says to Auckland, New Zealand. That's so weird. It's a shitty website operated by British Airways.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely something off.
I definitely
Yeah.
don't want to get on that flight.
Yeah, I do think that that ExileCon, and to anybody who's considering, I think you guys should absolutely go. Especially since, you know, you're kind of supporting the cause, because probably in the future, like, they're organizing it on what's it called, on Area Zero. They're doing it in New Zealand, all right? So in the future, if enough people show up, they can organize it somewhere else where a lot of people don't have to go to New Zealand, yeah?
Yeah.
But it has to be good.
I'm so excited to visit the GGG offices.
Ground Zero, no? Ground Zero, there you go.
Double-edged axe, ground area 0.
Listen, SSF
SSF
English,
English, yeah.
my SSF English, I'm still learning, all right? I'm still dropping gear.
But yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm excited. I mean, it makes sense for them to have it down there as well, though, because it's so close to the offices.
Yeah, no. I think that's, in general, that's the best way. As much as I hate how, you know, it will be a nightmare getting there. I think that's probably going to make for the best experience, and they're looking at it the same way. And, you know, you forget about the travel and everything when you're just having fun over there. So
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do
unless
like
it's gonna be total shit. Holy moly! If it would suck, that would be awful. We're gonna have like a TanaCon 2.0.
we just show up in this like
Yeah.
studio or something, and there's just a bunch of chairs and Chris, and it's like, oh hey sis, and I'm like, what? There's like 20 chairs. What?
Yeah, and Shane Dawson shows up with a cap, puts a camera in your face. It's like, how are you? How much fun are you having right now?
But like, I would definitely go for a longer amount of time. I would probably go for like 2 weeks, maybe even more. Rent like an Airbnb down there and like make sure I can talk to the owner before and be like, do you have good internet? They say, yeah, it loads Facebook really fast. It's like, okay, let's find another one.
Can you adopt?
So I think I would stay there for a while. And do like real life streams and stuff, like stream Hobbiton and stuff. Oh, that's probably illegal.
Probably. Actually, I wonder. Yeah, probably.
Sneak
I did
streaming.
see you could do the whole thing with the walk to Mordor, where you like walk from Hobbiton all the way to Mount Doom or whatever it was called. If you haven't been doing that, it takes like a week of walking or something.
That sounds
Cool.
fucked. I'm built for sitting.
I mean, you could just do it in like a wheelchair or something.
What, you mean like I race? Wheelchair
Yeah, because you gotta
coming
be
through.
original, right? Like, people are walking to Mordor. Hell nah, dog. You're gonna wheelchair all the way there. It's a ride to Mordor, ride in style.
Oh, I'm so excited, dude. Like everything about New Zealand looks really cool. They have beaches there, and I think I looked up like the temperature should be like fairly decent because it's in November.
Like a beach is there. It's an island, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It just sounded funny to me. It's like, oh, there's beaches. Well, yeah.
I don't have beaches here, and it's cold and raining all the time. Anyway, like it sounds and like looks like a really nice area, so I'm really excited.
Yeah. Oh, no snakes, I heard. So
yeah, there's nothing dangerous. It's like a safe zone of Australia.
There's nothing dangerous. I don't know. Going to ExileCon, being entire convention being filled up with smelly nerds, it might get a little bit dangerous, but we'll see.
Some guy will show up and be like, "Rice, you got my build nerf. Fuck you."
You never know.
Yeah,
People are a little bit crazy.
it's special. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
what
no,
can
that was
let it?
pretty good. That's pretty much all the topics that I wanted to cover. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
Mm, I think we're fine for the most part. Would you be excited for like what Chris was talking about in terms of like a director's cut, like a super side league? Do you think that would be a good idea that people would engage with, where you've got just like a separate league that's a little bit more difficult? Like it's full retard SSF for full rhubarb, excuse me.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be really cool. But I
Yeah.
think that would be not alongside the first league start. I think that would be something that could be cool with like
Hmm.
the second event. Like so, for example, with the race event coming up in August now, I think it'd be cool if there was like say turmoil, and then you would have like like a really hard one that you could go into. Not necessarily mayhem, not just like a loot pinata, but like turmoil and then turmoil
Hmm.
hardcore.
Right.
Fuck
Yeah.
you edition.
Whoa. Yeah, I really wonder how successful something like that would be. There's been a lot of talk about like more increased difficulty leagues. I am a little bit. I was, and maybe this is just my bias because I remember when everybody was like, "Well, you don't want to split up the leagues even more, right? Like the player base, there's so few. Making an SSF league would be awful." And I'm just like, "No, I want SSF." And now probably people would have a similar argument, especially since we're dying breeds. This hardcore. I don't know how long hardcore is gonna last.
I mean, it's also because so many people don't have the time for it. It does take a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything about people not having a lot of time is going to change anytime soon. So I really wonder. I mean, you've moved over to the trade league. Do you feel like there's an underwhelming amount of trading going on right now, or is that just my impression?
I sold one item,
Nice.
so
That were you trying to sell one item, or is that
no,
is that good? Is that
I've got
bad?
a few like items listed. I've literally just sold one. So I sold my doctor, and that was it. Everything else is just not selling.
Yeah.
Oh no, I sold two doctors. Never mind, I sold two. Twice as
Oh,
much.
you're farming doctors in SSF. Whew.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was
Mhm.
planning to no life it a lot more as well, but then the heat, like, I actually like, ah,
The heat came.
yeah, it's been awful, really
Yeah.
bad, especially with these like studio lights. It's horrendous.
Yeah, people don't get it. I get the same thing where it's just like I'm dying here, just can't open the window. I have to have my door closed because otherwise I'm screaming in the middle of the night and neighbor comes over yelling at me and then I'm screaming at them when they play music and all this shit. And people are just like, get an AC. Why don't you just do this? And they don't get how just like massive amount of monitors and computers just burns a hole through you. Oh,
Yeah,
pretty bad.
it's pretty bad. But no, I would definitely think the director's cut thing would be and more stuff like that too.
Hmm. Yeah, I really wonder how the community
Especially
would react.
something I really wanted, um, like for SSF only, I would want a voluntary SSF void league because you're not like you can happily split that up anyway because you're not like splitting or like decreasing any trade league if it's already just an SSF league you're increasing. So like an SSF void league with increased drop rates. So like yeah, you can have a void league or like you can have increased drops, but like it's voided, so it'll never go back to any economy.
Hmm.
Which
I'm scared of that. People
I
have been mentioning that. I'm scared of it. I feel like, it- you know how sometimes a lot of people, well, people complain. I really never had this issue, but I've heard other people mention this where they played a mayhem or something and they had so much fun, and then the league launches. It's like, well, this league mechanic's cool, but I really enjoyed the mayhem because of all this stuff, and it kind of pushes people away. So it's a scary concept.
That's true.
The game won't feel just good enough. Yeah.
That's true.
Just make people play Diablo 3. It's like how to get people to play PoE again. Just force everybody to play Diablo 3 for a day and everybody's like, "No, I love this game now. Please, never change."
Pretty
Mhm.
much. But yeah,
Basically Perandis.
dude, Prentice was fun.
No.
I like the league, like besides the crashes.
Yeah, okay. Brandis was rough.
Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty much all we had to talk about. RaizQT, where can people find you?
Hey, thanks very much for having me. You guys can find me over at twitch.tv/RaizQT. We also have the same YouTube and Twitter and everything else.
Make
Yeah.
sure you follow him everywhere, guys. Really cool content creator. Really, really nice. Cares a lot about the community. Puts a lot of effort, especially into price taking items, which is very, very noble of him. So yeah, really, really cool guy. And thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks very much, man. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.
Yep. So the way this is
Guys.
gonna work now, I actually have an outro prepared. So thanks for watching. Try to die less than I do. Supposed to load. God damn it. I hate everything. Oh my god.
Yep.
Right.
Hey,
Thanks.
at least you managed to mute me. I was gonna make fun of you.
I hate everything. Wait, hold on.
God.
Thanks for
This is the
joining.
most